All right. Going live. You're live. All right. Where are we at? Is anyone online? Anyone here? Can you hear me? Let me know in the chat if you can hear me, if you're tuned in. Okay. Hi, Ivan. Hi, Ian. Oh, I need to change the settings here. Oops, audio. Okay, we should be good to go. How's everyone doing? I'll just test this. Let me know if you can hear it. I can't. Marcel, what's up, bro? Hope everyone had a good weekend. I did. Played at one of my favorite clubs, Sisyphos in Berlin. It was good times. Good times. Really? You had Hot and 82 in Wellington last weekend? I didn't realize that. Yeah, so there's a bunch of tracks today. On the beach stage, no, I played in the Dampfer stage, which is like the kind of indoor clubby stage, but not the big techno floor. Pretty fun. 4-hour set. It was unbelievably busy, like rammed from. So I opened the floor, and it was like busy from the start. It was sick. How many tracks did you get this time, and how many made it? Yeah, it was. So how many have I got? There's 22, but I think I double numbered once. So there's 23 tracks in, and I think only 2 or 3 didn't send their correct link or have download enabled. So pretty much the best result we've had in that regard. Although now I'm wishing I didn't go on about it, because we've got a lot of tracks to get through. Oh well. There's a lot of the usual suspects in here, which is nice to see. Ollie, what's up, bro? Got your track. Lots of the guys from the Discord, same guys who submit tracks every month and get in early. So yeah, good stuff. Again, I haven't been so super active in the Discord. I've got to get back in there. Had so much stuff on. I was like sick a bunch of times last month. It was super crazy. But I'm fit and healthy again. And I had a bunch of other stuff going on. Like I filmed a track from like start to finish track course for Fader Pro last week. So that will be coming out later this year. So cool stuff to look forward to there. But that's all pretty much done and dusted. So back on with the normal. Did I play any of these in my set? No. I haven't listened to any of these other than to check the loudness in here, and I only just downloaded them. All right, so let's just jump in. Houston, Giving Up, number 1. I'll just say that there's quite a few tracks, so I'm gonna have to like skip through things a bit, and it normally gets more skipping as we get further on. So there's a good motivation to get your stuff in quicker. This is off to a very good start. All right, absolutely solid stuff from Andy again. He's been killing it in the last few live streams. I think he got something signed from one of the live streams, maybe not the last one, the one before. So yeah, his stuff's just like really, the quality is getting higher and higher. This one, I've got a track signed that's coming out soon with the same vocal. I don't know, these things happen. It is the way it is. I'll give you some feedback on the vocal though, in the way that you've used it. It sounds like there's like a timing issue, like either it's not quite fitting with the beat, maybe you made the beat and then found the vocal and put it over the top. Or maybe the warping or something is not quite right, but it just sounds a little bit off. Starting here, I think. Yeah, this bit here just felt a little bit like not quite working with the groove of the beat that you've got going. Yeah. So you could, it may be that like that it is warped correctly, but that it's just not quite grooving with the track. So you might want to look at the warping a little bit and just kind of shift some of those vocals around ever so slightly. You could also try like side chaining the vocals like very, very, very slightly. Sometimes it just helps to slot them in with the groove. And like on the overall track, like I really don't have much feedback in terms of things that could be improved. It's really good. I really like it's got this kind of deep but slightly kind of progressive vibe. Yeah, everything just works really well, and it sounds full but not like over the top. There's room for all the elements, there's nothing really clashing, and it's, yeah, again, really well done, bro. Raoul Afro original mix. So I really liked the way that vocal came in. It really made a big impact at that point. But up until there, everything feels very like almost mono, like all the drums feel like they're straight down the middle, which I think just spreading them out with some pan or getting a little bit of movement in the stereo field will just help the drums to sound a bit more full. I just want to try with mono on and see if it sounds any different. Right, so there's a bit of width there, but I think it might be like fake width, like what do you call it, like Haas effect kind of thing, like you've got some stereo offset on the drums. So I would like actually pan some drums to the left, pan some drums to the right. If you can kind of sit them in their own space, and then maybe within that have also a little bit of movement, either using like an auto pan or when I program my drums with the Ableton Simpler, I always use the pan randomization a little bit. Just a tiny bit of movement really helps to make them feel more natural. I think if you can do that, you'll kind of like have a bit more going on there. Also some kind of like atmospheric thing in here, like just a very subtle pad or something, or even just some kind of like background atmosphere loop, or texture kind of thing. Just you can search Splice or Loop Cloud for some kind of texture and you'll find something cool. Really nice tension and release there, how you kind of almost built it down to the drop, and then the drop had a lot more power when it came back with like the big wide crash, the big splashy wide vocals, and yeah, really good. Overall, really cool track. Really, yeah, works really well. I'll say one thing though. Like, so the vocal is really, really good, but the vocal is kind of doing most of the work for the track, and you know, for me anyway. Like, if a good test is like to go, okay, well, if I take out the vocal, is the track still an awesome track? And I feel like you should kind of be aiming for that in a way. And in this case, I would say if you just sent this track and it didn't have the vocal in, it probably wouldn't be standing up to where it is now. And I think the way that you can fix that is just making a little bit more, making the drums, like I said, like just kind of spreading them out, giving everything their own space, rather than using like Haas effect type things. Maybe getting some like more organic brushy kind of shakers in there or something, a few more kind of fills and things like that. Then with the melodic elements, there's some cool stuff going on, and you've got some nice automation and things like that, but there's not really like a lead melody or something. So what I think would make this song stronger is having like a real strong melodic hook that could kind of take over from the vocal for a section, like, you know, so you have the vocal on the drop here, and then here you bring in some kind of really strong melodic hook that can kind of do its thing through here, build up in the break, and then you drop back with the vocal again here. And I think that will be I think that will kind of add another dimension to the track and make it a lot more meaningful. Then I think you would have that effect that I was talking about, where if you just mute the vocal, you have a track that's still engaging. I think that's what you should go for. But yeah, the kind of arrangement and the track really works as it is now. I think those are just my my advice for making it stronger. So really nice vibe on this so far. I think for me it's doing too much up until this point. This is like, feels like where it should be, but I think the whole intro section feels a little bit rushed. I don't think it needs to have like the bass and everything going here, and it doesn't need to have like a break here, because this is, you know, you've got a, what is it, 7-minute arrangement. So this is where someone's going to be mixing this track in. In my experience, people who play this kind of music tend to do longer mixes, and you know, if I was playing this track, you wouldn't hear any of this stuff that you would, you know, I'd just be bringing it in. I want like a little bit of the track to come through so you can hear it coming through in the mix. But all of this kind of, all these breaks and drops and stuff are unnecessary. It's not going to add value to what I'm doing as a DJ. And I think you also, you know, like I'm not going to mix this in and do like a 20-second mix and then drop the bass in here, you know. So it may just be me. Maybe everyone doesn't do it the same way that I do it, but I think people who are playing this kind of music are doing longer mixes, and you can kind of have an intro that's a little bit more stripped back and has a little bit more room for something else to be playing over the top. You know, at the end of the day, it's an intro. Also, by not having so much in the intro, it gives you that stuff as like ammunition for your arrangement later. You can bring it in later. So you could kind of like build it up without the bass, or, you know, maybe with like a stripped back version of the bass. So like a couple of notes of the bass line, or the bass line filtered out or something, and then just slowly introducing it. So you've got the low end cut out, and then you're introducing it slowly with volume automation, so that then when you get here, you've got the bass at like full volume, but with the lows filtered out, and then you kind of reveal it here at this drop, and then it's going to have more impact. Great point, Ian. Referencing is key. Really nice break. So it works, and I think I really like the vibe. And one thing that we've been talking about on our calls together is doing like longer, more club focused arrangements, and it's cool to see you doing that. I think with this arrangement, you know, there's not really much differentiation in it. Like there's like different the vocals and stuff that you've got going on. What's up, Albuquerque, my homie? The different vocals and stuff that you've got going on are very atmospheric and washy. So when this is loud in a club, those are not going to really be that audible. I think if you save them for the break, then these beat sections are going to have more power, and maybe you could kind of find some vocal element within the source material that you've used that has a bit more power and doesn't have so much kind of delay and reverb on it, that you could kind of use, you know, every 8 bars or something throughout this section to give it a bit more of a recognizable hook. This break is really cool. At this point, I think you bring in quite a bit of stuff, and you could build this up a bit more, like a bit more smoothly, a bit more subtly. Maybe if you bring the drums in like filtered down, maybe down in volume, you could like put a bit of reverb on the drum bus or something, that you then like take away the reverb, open up a bit more of the highs, slowly bring up the volume, but none of that all the way. And then when you drop it, it goes back to how you expect the drums to be, and that's going to have a lot more impact. I think having some kind of like melodic hook, or it doesn't have to be like a really something really crazy. I'll use Houston's track as an example, right? So he's got then the vocal comes in. So if you look at the arrangement of this, right, he's got this section, then the vocal, and now here he brings in a synth. Right, so I think if you do something just simple like that in your track, but give these different parts like a little bit more distinction between different sections. And they don't have to be like, you don't have to be changing it up like crazy, just bringing some elements in, some elements out, so that it feels a little bit different than the section before it. And that's just going to help create like progression in the arrangement. There's a link, Charles, there's a link at the top of the chat to submit stuff. If I have time, I can get to tracks that are submitted during the stream, but there's no guarantee. Mirage. So Raul, from the advice I gave you on the intro and the drums and stuff of your track here, basically Mirage is doing all of it. He's using these little incidental like conga fills. He's got this nice pad in the background that's kind of moving around and giving some like vibe and atmosphere. The drums are like nicely kind of panned, not overly, but everything feels like it's got its own space. Super good. Really quite unique with the melodies and stuff. But yeah, just really, really nice, understated. Super good. I would recommend sending this to Gorge. He's restarting a label that he used to do called, I think it's called Kachuli or something like that, and I'm pretty sure he wants to do like organic, deep kind of stuff, probably like this. You can try writing him, or if you don't have any luck, maybe talk to Jacob from Valiant, and he might be able to like help you send it. I know that Gorge just did a release on Valiant, or I'm not sure, or has one coming up, and Jacob is his booking agent in Australia as well. So yeah, I think that would be a pretty good home for that one. Nice one, Ollie. So this intro so far, it's like the beat and everything sounds cool, but the intro so far has been really boring, Ollie. Which I don't mean in any offense. It's just like nothing's really happening, nothing's kind of changing. It's not building at all, and you've got quite a lot of stuff in from like right from the start, right? So there's opportunity to just take some of this stuff out and introduce it a bit more slowly. This vocal also came in, which is like really filtered down low in volume. I'm not sure, maybe that's going to reveal itself a bit more, but it's also kind of like, especially with the amount of stuff in there, it's not really adding anything to have it there at the moment, but let's see what happens. Just to clarify, I really like the vibe and stuff. It's more like an arrangement kind of thing at the moment. So yeah, with the vocal, I think I get the vibe that you're going for, but it's kind of like, it feels like a bit too far in the background. It sounds like you might have pitched it down a little bit, and maybe you're bringing off some of the tops and stuff like that, and then it's got quite a bit of reverb on it. So it's just like, it just feels like it's disconnected from the rest of the track, like it's almost too far in the background. So I would like try and find some references of the way that other people have got the same effect on their vocals that you're trying to go for here, and just try to recreate that a little bit. It feels a little bit overdone, this kind of like pushing it in the background, making it feel deeper and more chilled, the vocal. it kind of, it's not the right word, but it almost feels like annoying. I'm kind of like, oh, what's it saying? What's going on there? Because it's like, it's there, but it's not quite there. Right, so I think this has got really cool potential. I like the idea a lot. The vibe is really cool, but I think, and I know this from listening to your other tracks, that I think you can do much better on the arrangement. I think it's just, it feels like a work in progress at the moment. And I think you've got like the vibe is really cool. It just feels like there's not much changing in terms of like the energy and stuff, and then the bits that are supposed to be like the hook or whatever, like the vocal, it's kind of like in the background a bit. So I would just like try and rethink it a bit, but it's definitely worth putting a bit of energy into. I would maybe even suggest like maybe you could try like bouncing out some of the parts and try and remix the track yourself. See if you can come up with a fresh take on it, or I don't know, maybe just start again with the arrangement. Grab a couple of references and see if you can kind of come up with any more kind of dynamic ideas for the arrangement. Yeah, interested to hear where that gets to. Oh man, cool track, very unique, I would say. The my main feedback is like the like so the it seems to work. It's kind of a bit like I think if you could add a bit more change in the drums and percussion by just switching things up a little bit, and I think that would help to kind of keep a bit of movement in the arrangement. In terms of like the mix and stuff, you've got a lot of not quite like very resonant sounds that are like they have quite a bit of sustain on them. So it's you can just kind of see it on the frequency analyzer. There's a lot going on there, and it's kind of it's like one thing if you have one of those sounds, but you've got like so there's like even it starts with like this cowbell fill or something that's in here. I'm not sure, it's somewhere there, and then you kind of bring in, it sounds like some kind of bell type lead, and then some kalimbas, and then so there's a lot of these quite similar sounds that can be already quite difficult to place in the mix. It's kind of hard to get a perception of it in my headphones. I would want to listen to it on my speakers, but I imagine if I got sent this as something to mix, I would have a hard time getting it sounding right. So, and it also like having the different like different elements that are quite similar in like timbre and the way that they like, so bells, kalimbas, that kind of thing. They're not the same, but they're similar sounds, right? So if maybe you look at some of those elements and go, okay, well, this one could be more like a synth pluck. This one could be more like this, and then I think that's going to create a bit of separation and a bit of dynamics for the sound. You've like also then this like lead that you've got that comes in after the first break has also got quite a lot of resonance in it. So it's not so I'm not saying it in any way that it's like a bad track. I think it's just like there's a lot of resonance in it. So it might you might look at kind of seeing if you can replace some of the sounds of some of the elements and create a bit of distinction between them, because at the moment you've got quite a few things that are kind of similar to each other. All right, I'm going to try and speed things up a little bit, as we do have a lot of tracks to get through. I like the vibe, and it's a little bit different, but I think the clap that you've got on there is a bit long. I think if you have something that's a little bit tighter, the reason that stands out to me is because I choose sounds like that for my claps a lot, and then I get to the end of the production process and go like, fuck, what's this? Why doesn't this quite feel right? And then I'll replace my clap with something that's a little bit tighter, and everything kind of gels together. So I think this may be exactly what you want, but I would suggest just trying it. Just get like a 909 clap or something with a bit less reverb, a bit less tail on it, and just see how it sounds, and it might just kind of bring everything together in your beat. That said, it is giving it like its own identity. It makes it more recognizable, the sound that you've got there. So a really cool vibe on this, mate. I think you've done a really good job of getting elements that sound really well, sound really good together. What's up, Dowden? Hope you're good, bro. You missed a fun night at Sisyphos on Saturday. And I think there are a few people that you know there as well. But anyway, so like this was really cool. We introduced these little chord stabs here. It's a nice switch up, right? But it's the outro of the track. So like make that switch up here before the break or something, or here after this break. Like I think it's always worthwhile trying to put some more dynamics into the arrangement. Have like a different section, have a bit before the break where you say, you know, I mean, you've done a good job here, you've taken out some of the drums, but even be a bit more bold with it, you know, take out all of the drums and then just have that kind of that vocal there, maybe with a high string or something like that, so it's that the high string will just help to add something where you've taken a lot away. But yeah, I think you've got all the elements in here, but you could just make it a little bit more interesting by switching things up a little bit. But everything you've got works really well together. It's nice, and it's definitely a vibe. So this sounds like that should have been the first break or something at like 1.5 minutes. Like, I think it's worthwhile trying to think about how people are going to interact with your track. Like, are you expecting that a DJ is going to stop the last track and just turn yours on? Because that's not the way that things normally happen. So like to have this much going on and this kind of build up to a vocal drop at, what is this, 12 seconds, is like, it's just not going to be functional. And then you've got another, so you've had like this little intro thing, then like this vocal section, and now you've got a breakdown after 30 seconds to a drop, which sounds like it could be like the main drop of the track, you know. So you're just doing way too much, way too early. That said, the things that you've got in here sound nice, they're working well together. The arrangement is just like, I mean, yeah, it's just way too rushed. You need to have a bit of patience with it, I think. Thoughts running round my head. Thoughts running round my head. Never let go. So I think so this break here is really cool, and you could just, so what you could do is just build up the elements that you've got, no vocal, none of these like little mini breaks and stuff. Just build this up in a natural kind of way, so it's kind of building in intensity. Maybe you drop the bass line in at 1 minute, okay, and then you kind of build it up to this crescendo here at 1:30 where you introduce the vocal. You don't have the vocal before that. That's going to create like a moment, right? This is where the track really drops, and this is where the kind of crowd interaction starts to happen, and you've used this section here to build up to that, right? But you're already kind of in this break, which is totally working in my opinion. You're then starting to introduce more kind of counter melodies and so I think this kind of plucky melody, it reminds me of Eric Pride's In Out. But I can't remember. I don't think it's his Pride. It's someone. It's Eric Pride's, but it's under another name. I think it's called In Out. Anyway, but that's kind of like a techno track, and I just don't think you need it. I think you've got enough stuff. You've got a lot of stuff in this track already. So, and I think there's a good lesson here that, you know, it's worthwhile bringing in lots of elements, trying lots of elements, being creative, making lots of things. But just as important as coming up with new elements is making a decision about what to leave out. And the things that you leave out are just as important as the things that you leave in. This is, I mean, the thing is, you've got loads of cool elements here. You've got enough to make 3 tracks. Just keep it simple, man. And then you're going to have a much stronger track. Especially with this kind of music, go reference some tracks on Afterlife and whatnot, and you know they're not going to have 50 melodies in them. They're not, you know, you want it to be recognizable. You want to grab the strongest idea of these things that you've created and use that. Take things out, give the things that are important space to work and breathe, and yeah, and you're going to end up with a much stronger track. That's one hell of a kick drum you've got there. It's extremely subby, extremely big kick drum. I'm imagining you're probably going to add a bass line in, but yeah, I think I'm predicting that I'm going to be telling you that the kick drum's too big. Yeah. So you've got a subby bass line and this huge subby kick drum, and the bass is mixed very loud. So I think what you want to do here is probably find a kick drum that's half as long in terms of length. The general rule that and it's not just me suggesting this, like this is just, I don't know, I'm not saying that you can't do this, you can do whatever you want, but you're going to find it a much easier to get your kick and bass to work if you decide whether or not you're going to have a long subby kick or a long subby bass. If you try and go for both, it only causes problems. That said, the vibe of the track is really nice. I think it's just, if I high pass it, sorry, low pass it, it's going to sound like a techno track, I think. Maybe not quite, but
just from the coffee house on 39th and Lennox. You know, the one with the braids? Yeah. Well, I see you on Wednesdays all the time. You come in every Wednesday on your lunch break, I think. And you always order the special with the hot chocolate. My manager be tripping and stuff.
I think the vocals got a bit too much low end cut out of it. It makes it sound a bit thin. I guess you've got it from YouTube or a Netflix or something like that. But it just sounds like a bit thin. I think if you, instead of using a cut like this to cut out the lows of the vocal, use a slope like this to gently kind of ease out the low end, and it's just going to sound, they'll just sit in the track nicer, basically.
Water, but I always use some kind of sweet soup.
Also, get to the point with the vocals, you know, like if there's a bit in there that you were like because they sounded nice and it kind of fits with the aesthetic of what you've got going on there. But if there's not going to be like a kind of punchline or a hook or something, then, you know, this break could do with being half as long and just make it happen, get back to the groove. Because it's kind of like there's not really much going on. So if I'm on a dance floor or something here, I'm like,
kind of sweet.
I'm like, what are we doing? The vocal's cool. I like it, but it's not like captivating me, got me locked in, like what's she gonna say next, you know? It's cool, but it's like you could have it drop, take out some of the melodic elements and then continue the vocal over the top of the over the top of the beat or something, you know, give me something to dance to. That was unexpected.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what day did you say?
So kind of similar to the first break, I think, just for the amount that you're taking out and the level of things that are changing over that period of time. I think it could be like at least halved. The way that it builds up here at the end and drops back in.
So what day did you say?
Really nice. But I think this doesn't do this any justice. And then similar with the first one, it's just kind of too long with not much creating tension and release. I get that it's a story or whatever, but I wasn't listening to it going like, oh, what's she going to say next? Where's this going? It's like, really, it's like a texture to put in there, you know. I think it's great to have a concept for a track, but it's also important to look at it and go like, is this working or not?
It's
is really cool so far, Marcel. I think this kind of bass line that you bring in, I think you should pull back the cutoff a little bit. It's just letting through a little bit too much of the mid-range. I think it's just going to sound cooler and tighter if it lets through less of this kind of like farty sounding mid-range bass. I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, it's just like that's kind of the vibe it gives me. But so far the track is like sounding really cool. Nice little use of the vocal, not too much, helping that transition. Nice little switch up here, taking out some of the drums and like adding in that, I don't know, it sounds kind of like a little acid bass or something that's kind of coming up. Sounds nice. So I think kind of here you could bring out a bit more of the low end. So I think after, to like kind of take it up one level, I think after the drop, it would be cool to have some kind of call and response with this. I don't know, it's not like a piano stab. So something that kind of, maybe that plays twice and then you've got something else that's a little bit more punchy, staccato, like do-do-do-do-do, or something that plays, that kind of plays off it, interacts with it. Like in this track and in a lot of your tracks, you tend to use melodic elements that sit between kind of like 100 and 1k hertz, or even less, like 100 and 600 hertz. So having some melodic elements that are a bit higher could help, you know, something that just kind of like interacts. So I think what that's supposed to do, but I don't know if that is sounding quite right, but it's a good start. It's kind of, I think, using an element that's different. Now you've got another element that's playing the whole time. I think using something that plays less frequently, but is more clearly interacting with the first element. Yeah, good stuff. you think your track is a bit different or something. So I've put some limiting on it to bring it up to the same volume as the other tracks that have been submitted. So it says on here that it's a master file, but let me take off the limiting and have I increased in volume? No. So like, it doesn't sound bad, but it's also just, if I play it against something else that's, especially for this kind of style, I think generally it will have quite a lot of mastering on it, quite a lot of compression on it. So yeah, okay, but I can play it, if you prefer, I can play it without the additional compression. It'll just seem a little bit quieter than other people's tracks in the stream. So there's also something happening here with the vocals is they're really pushing the volume of the other elements, and I think that's also maybe due to not having enough compression on the vocal. Yeah, like I can hear, especially in here. So like the volume of the instrumentation gets pushed up by the volume of the vocal increasing, so it sounds quite awkward and unnatural. So yeah, I think the vocal just has still too much dynamics in it, especially for this kind of I mean, I don't know what you call it, but what genre, how to classify the genre, I'm not sure, but it sounds kind of made for Spotify, let's say. Yeah. So like the songwriting and everything sounds really good. I think just the mix and master and maybe some of the production in terms the vocal production could really do with some work. And then I think, you know, it's like, I think it sounds like a demo at the moment, in my opinion, for something that could sound like a radio track. But sorry, I just want to also say congrats on doing stuff in, I'm not sure if it's your native language or the singer's native language, but it's always, it's always nice to see.
Feel like I should trust you.
another track that I've used the same vocal. I released a track on Bondage Music, I think, that had this same vocal. No, on Omnia Records. Yeah, I think you've done a really nice job with the track. I like the way that you've got the chords and then the sub bass kind of interacting. I was a bit worried at the start when these chords came in that there was then going to be like bass playing underneath them, because they've got a lot of like low end in them. So it's working really well. I think some of the production you've done on the vocals is a bit like over the top. This sounds like you've used Little Altar Boy or something, and that can sound really cool, but it can also sound a bit unnatural, and I think this is pushing towards the unnatural sound a little bit.
I feel like I should trust you.
So I think, yeah, it sounds like it's being pitched down, so just rolling off a bit of the low end, I think will...
I feel like I should trust you.
So that helps it feel a little bit more controlled, but I think still it's giving this kind of low mid. It almost sounds like she's got lung cancer or something, or throat cancer or something. Yeah. So I think, and then then also through this section, when you've got the non-processed vocal coming in, it sounds a bit loud, I think. It's just a little bit too forward. I think you could bring that down by kind of at least 3 dB, I would imagine. Maybe 5 dB even. Just, yeah, get a reference track, so you like go back and forward.
I feel like I should trust you. Trust you.
So with this break here, I feel like you could have put the vocal here. Then had this kind of like beep beep sounding synth here. It feels a little bit choppy, the way that this transitions right here, and then with the vocal playing as loud as it is over the top of that sound, it doesn't give either sound chance to breathe. So I think you could use that kind of like beep beep kind of sonar sound with a bit more automation and a bit more like working it a bit more to create a bit more of a different, just something that's a little bit different that can then create a bit more tension and release for this drop. Charles, no, I don't automatically listen. Next time when I announce the stream, I do it a week before, and the people who send their stuff in first get listened to first and get preference. Really nice vibe. Everything's working pretty well. apart from the few things that I've mentioned. But the beat, and especially those chords, those nice kind of deep chords, are really cool. Dickie, what do we got? Dickie, while I was sick the other week, I remember just today, I remembered that you texted me about something. I will do that. I'll send those tracks off for you. This was also extremely quiet, so I've turned this up by 14 dBs and am adding 5 dBs of limiting, so I'm not sure why I'm not sure why your tracks are coming out at like minus 1000 LUFS. Another vocal that I've been working with. It's what you've got so far sounds really good, apart from my vocal. The vocal sounds really cool. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that, Alex. It does sound quite, it's not, I don't think it's mono, but let's check. But it does sound not exactly super wide. Yeah, it's pretty much, it's mono. So I don't know, maybe there was something on the master when you exported it, Dickie. I don't know. But really solid. I think it's got like a nice drive to it. Some of the stuff that you send me is like quite a bit deep, and I think this one's kind of got a bit more energy, and that's in this case that's a good thing. So either extend the outro or make this the outro, so, which would mean that you probably don't want to have vocals and stuff here. It's always just, yeah. So also you've got this very long intro, but the vibe and everything's really nice. I think the arrangement just maybe it could be reworked a little bit, just subtly. Don't use Dilby's vocal, or Dilby's making too many tracks and using all the vocals, but yeah. Or these guys have got good taste in vocals, who knows. Yeah, but sounds good, bro. I think the arrangement could use a little bit of work, and the mix could use a lot of work. even though I know this was, you sent me like your new mix version. But I guess we should jump on a call and talk about how you're going through that mix down process and what's going on, and see if we can sort that out for you. So I think this could really benefit from some kind of groovier hats and stuff on the 16th. It might happen later, but I just feel by close to 1 minute, it would be nice to have a bit more groove. I think that would probably help them to sit better, but some of the like snares and stuff that you've got in there are feeling a bit overpowering with the lack of percussion. I mean, sorry, the lack of hats. Right, okay, so I can see what's happening here. I'm not sure what exactly is happening here, but by looking at the waveform, I can see you've actually got a lot of crazy amount of limiting going on. Maybe that's just applied to your kick drum, but your kick drum looks like a cube. Yeah, exactly, Alex. A background, just a subtle background top loop or something could work nicely. But you've got all this limiting, but then you also got a couple of, I don't know, maybe 4 dBs of headroom. Like it's like you limited it, but then you had your master at like -3 or something like that. So there's something a bit weird going on with your file. I will turn off this additional limiting. So the reason, just so everyone understands, the reason I put limiting onto stuff is so that everything sounds kind of the same volume, so you're not kind of hearing someone's track and you can barely hear it, or someone's track is just super loud. I'm trying to get everything to sound kind of consistent, in that way we can all kind of judge it consistently. So I'll just put that at 2. Now that should be not peaking. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I would say first thing is like it's way over compressed. It feels a bit empty in the drums and stuff. There's just not really a lot of atmosphere to it. You've got like a nice vibe going on, but it's also very linear. Like the bass line that you've got sounds really cool. But there's almost literally nothing happening. So the elements that are there are just flat. They're just maintaining. They're not changing at all. So I think you really need to go into the details of work, especially if you're going to make like stripped back tracks like this. Go into the details of like helping everything kind of move through the track. Is this yours, Ian? And then, I mean, the same thing, this like outro, it's just a kick drum. So yeah, I mean, you were Ian, you were recommending to people to reference earlier. I think do the same thing, man. It's worth just like getting another track in there and trying to understand the arc of energy as it goes through, because yeah, like the thing is, I think you've done a really good job of, and like listening to some of it compared to some of your other stuff you've sent in, you're definitely starting to get closer to a vibe that you are going for. The idea is sounding a lot more polished, but I think you just need to work that idea and reference some stuff for the arrangement. Shit, we're not getting through these tracks fast enough. Okay. This, I mean, it may be a result of the crazy amount of, I think this was definitely the most compressed track that was sent today. So I've turned this one down by 2.5 dB. I think it was like around -6 LUFS in different places. So what my point is that some of this white noise and stuff just sounds like way too extremely way too extreme, which may be a result of how much it's being brought up in volume by the amount of limiting. But it just kind of, it makes it sound, when you've got that white noise like that, especially with the sidechain pumping without a lot of like width and stuff going on, it sounds a bit outdated. You know, like tracks sounded like this, and it sounds like kind of the way that early Swedish House Mafia and stuff, when they were doing less kind of EDM and more slightly progressive house or something, it sounded. I think there's nice songwriting in here. It's cool, but I think, yeah, it's hard to discern what I'm supposed to be listening to, because everything is like right in front because of the amount of compression. So it doesn't really feel like there's any dynamics in the composition. Yeah, it feels like it could have nice kind of depth and ambience to it, but all that's been taken away by the amount of compression, which makes it really difficult to kind of give like detailed feedback on, because a lot of the elements are being really saturated by the amount of compression. Everything sounds really loud, so it kind of like lacks depth. It lacks dynamics. Yeah, so I don't know. There's not much I can tell you more than that, other than like the songwriting and sound and stuff sounds good, and I think it's not being given the depth and space that it deserves. I'm so I don't really have a point of reference for this. Like, yeah, it would be very difficult for me to. I think it's, to be honest, it's just not really to my taste in terms of like the style and stuff, and it's something that I don't really know too much about. It sounds like pretty well done, and you're creating tension and release. The arrangement seems to work. The mix is working pretty well. I would really need like a reference track of kind of like where you want it to be, in order to be able to say, well, these are the steps that you need to take to get there. The response from people listening seems to be really good, so I think you're doing something right. Like these sections like this sound really good, but then when this like bell lead came in, it gave me like kind of 90s Balearic house kind of vibes and sounded quite outdated, but people's response in the chat was that it was sick, so that's a taste thing. I will say, like, on this lead that you bring in, you could have like a little bit more movement, a little bit of delay, but yeah, I don't know, I think it's well done. I just don't really know what it is. So this to me, it feels like there's some, like proper old school. Yeah, it feels very old school. But it feels like something that actually was released in that time frame that it's kind of referencing. And what I mean by that is like things have kind of moved on, and I feel like the bar has been raised a little bit. It feels like there's a lot of ideas in here, but none of them have really been quite fine-tuned. And I think you could make a really cool track from this, but I think it feels a little bit clunky at the moment. I think the first thing to do would be to just really try and work on the groove of the kick and the bass, get that just nailed down so that everything is kind of just really, really gelling, and then figure out which of these elements that is supposed to be the hook, the reference point, the bit that if you hear that, you go, that's that track. Because at the moment there's like a lot of bits that it feels like you've kind of made a bunch of ideas and then gone, okay, I'll put this one here, this one here, this one here. So I think just refining is the key here, to decide what you want the track to be about and then work with that and work those ideas more. Another one that's obviously very compressed. Right? And kind of suffering from that same thing as one of the tracks previously, where it's got a subby kick, subby bass, like not a lot of, and then the over compression is just kind of squashing everything together. So there's not a lot of definition in the low end. And also not much groove in the hats.
To another place. To another place. Let's go.
See, I think you really need to ease back on the amount of limiting that's on this track, especially for the style. It's not really, I think people tend to focus on mastering as it's going to be this thing that takes the track from sounding amateur to pro or something like that, but it's not the way to get a pro sounding track. I think that comes from the songwriting, the composition, the arrangement, the mixing, and then adding limiting and putting and mastering a track. The less that adds to the track, the better. The track, once it comes back from being professionally mastered, shouldn't sound that much different to how the kind of pre-master sounded. Or the pre-master with a bit of limiting on it. So there's a lot of space in this, and everything sounds really, really loud, and I think that's partly due to the amount of compression. So the vocals really sticking out, the hats are really sticking out, but there's not a lot of ambience and kind of space within the track. You could get that by putting a low top loop or something in the background. Also, just working some automation through the elements and stuff like that. sounds the same. So you want to have some movement in the elements of your track, you know, that will keep it engaging over a longer period of time.
We gonna make a thing.
So I think this could have been here. Again, you know, it's 30 seconds in. It seems like a very short amount of time to bring in vocals, bass, everything, chords. It's like, you know, this is like the main. Then I imagine we're going to look through. I'm either going to listen through this, and it's going to be very similar all the way through, or you're going to bring in loads of elements. But that's kind of like how it has to be if you've got an arrangement like this that starts out really full really early.
If I say the word pimp, it's like, me, that's a lot of misconceptions. Because I used to have labels, you talented, but can you rap about something else? The biggest hurdle was saying, fuck y'all. We gonna make a thing.
So yeah, cool idea, cool kind of concept for the track. Sounds like something that could be released on Robsoul, Phil Weeks' label, which hopefully that's a compliment to you. It's intended as one. It's got that kind of vibe, but I think, especially for like say Robsoul, it's very compressed. I think the bass is just too loud. Maybe bring it down by anywhere from 3 to 5 to 6 dB. Cool. I think the vocal sample sounds like it's maybe iced tea or something. It's cool. It's interesting. Fits the vibe of the track. Also, the way that you've used it to kind of lead up to this little phrase before the drop works really well. Kind of as I suggested, it sounds pretty samey the whole way through. I did like this little bit here where, was it here? You dropped some elements out or something. That's cool. Until when do I do this? Well, I should be finishing in a couple of minutes, but I'm going to try and get through at least these up to 22. They were in there when I started. Probably go till 4:30 and see where we get to. 5:30, sorry. Okay. So here's a good example of like, it's not like there's that much going on, not that much more going on, but just within the drums, the hats and stuff, there's just a little bit more texture, a little bit more liveliness. It's not just dum-ts, 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 you know. So it is kind of getting a little bit boring here by 1 minute. There's not much has kind of changed. You've added in a few little different things, but I think you could just bring things in. I don't know. Bring things in. Maybe automate the pad or something in the background. Just have some things that are kind of rising a little bit to add some tension for this point where you drop the bass in, I assume. Very nice, very nice. The bass is very well balanced with the kick drum, and you can just see it in the waveform there. It's got a pretty short punchy kick with like longer bass notes, and it works. That little pluck thing sounds like it could have a bit more reverb on it. It sounds a little bit dry. Also seems to be mono. Just a bit confused. Hopefully that's not something that I'm doing. No. Okay, so I think it's in mono. This little bit here, I would probably bring you kind of bring the kick back to full. To pretty much full power. I would like hold it back a little bit and definitely leave 1 or 2 measures of the kick out before that drops in. It's just going to give it more impact. So I think in terms of like the mix, your low end sounds really nice. It's got nice separation, but it's missing something in the highs, and I think it's just to do with balancing. So the hats and stuff sound a bit quiet, and the melodic kind of elements sound very pushed back in the mix. So it's kind of, I'm doing it extreme here, and you should never be doing this kind of EQ on your master. If you're doing that, you really need to go back and look at your mix. But you can hear, maybe I'm overdoing a little bit, but you can hear when I turn this EQ on, it sounds more kind of balanced. So yeah, I think just look at the volume balance of some of your elements. Nice vibe straight off the bat. think these kind of like wood blocks or something could be a bit quieter. They're kind of in this, they're a bit distracting. They work well, but I think they're just a little bit overpowering. And so I was just checking again, because this one, the hats and stuff have got width in them, but most of the melodic elements seem to be very focused down the center. So I think you could get a lot more space in this, but by just like panning some of your elements a bit more, you know, sitting one synth here, just giving them their own space. Very nice, like, dramatic build up there. Yeah, I mean, really cool, man. It's really nice sound design. It sounds very, like, the sound design is very kind of pro sounding, I would say. I mean, I guess it's like a taste thing. It's just, to me, it doesn't feel like it's super, like it doesn't feel like there's an element that is like super memorable, super hooky, but it is very well done. So I think, you know, like I said, adding some more space in the mix could really work well. It's well produced, well sound designed, well written. I'm not sure if maybe this main riff here could be somehow a bit more engaging. So I think for the you've got these synths that are coming. Kind of sounds like electric piano kind of keys. And then the bass has got quite a lot of mid-range, takes up quite a lot of space. They're both playing quite full riffs in terms of timing. And it's just feeling quite crowded. I feel like one of those, if you're going to have a bass that's like the way that your bass is in this track, I feel like you want to have a bit more space for it. And then if you want to have these keys, you could probably take away a bit of the mid-range from the bass. And then because of that, when this vocal's coming in, there's not really that much space for that either. I always feel like a break like this is, I mean, it's not the longest break in the world, it's 30 seconds, but while there is something happening in it, it feels like it's just kind of there. Like, I feel like there needs to be more, yeah, some like more kind of build up to from here to here. I just kind of feel the break feels kind of linear. Right. Very nice, deep, melodic, progressive kind of thing. Really nice, man. It sounds really good. Sounds like something that could be released on, don't know where I'm thinking, but yeah, it's like it sounds like a good track that should be released. This like twinkly riff, because that's clearly like I guess like the main element of the track. I think it could probably, you could work it somehow a little more. I mean, you've got plenty of detail, and like the track is changing up, but I feel like that riff in particular just kind of is there and then it's out, which is, it's good that you take it out and give it a rest and let other things kind of take its place for a bit, but in and of itself it's not super engaging. That would be my only feedback, really. Otherwise, I mean, it's really good.
Don't stop now. No, don't stop now. I just wanna dance. I just wanna dance.
Sounds like you've got some cool elements in here and stuff, and you're switching it up and you're keeping things moving, but I feel like you could probably do a little bit more automation to just kind of, it just feels like it goes from one section to the next. Also, the drums feel pretty empty and linear. Yeah. This is from Albuquerque, I think. Kind of, so the main like melodies of the track sounds more like it should be over something like this track from Francisco Ruiz, The Dream. Like, whereas the beat and the bass sounds like it should be a bit more driving and aggressive. So I feel like there's a disconnect there for me anyway, in a way. We are like out of time, over time, by the way, so that's why I'm going through these tracks that got sent in during the stream very quickly. I really like the original of where you got this vocal from, and the way that you've used the vocal was really not doing it for me with the amount of reverb and washiness that you've gone for. It also sounds quite disconnected from the track, because you've got the track is quite like, it's got this bleepy synth, it's got this really kind of tight shuffly minimal drums and stuff, and then it's got like this, it just doesn't feel quite right for the track. You could probably process it differently and it might sound right for the track, but very intricate bleepy synths and stuff that you've done here. And also, I'm imagining that this is not finished, because you've got a new element coming in here. Yeah, I mean, it feels a bit unfinished, to be honest, in terms of the arrangement and things coming in and out. But there's some very intricate details in the synths and stuff, which is cool to hear. So I feel like you could kind of take out the bass and stuff during these breaks, just to give it a bit more, just to help it reset a little bit. Whole build-up thing felt a bit clunky. You've got these toms that keep coming in, and there's quite a bit of low end. The snares are quite full on. I think I liked this little end fill bit. That was cool, but I think it's almost like you're trying to do too many things in that build-up there. And it's a bit over the top for the level of intensity of the track. It's nice when this chord progression comes in, or the chord progression, I guess. Overall, I think it's a bit samey the whole way through. But that you could switch up the arrangement and make it a bit more interesting. I think it's got potential for sure. Okay. Johnny, is your private feedback options closed on pay? It's not closed, it's just full, mate. I only offer so many spaces per month for the higher tiers on Patreon. But if you go to my website, www.weekendaudio.com. You can find some options there. I'll write it in the chat. I feel like there's a bit too much in the track. I feel like the vocal is supposed to be the main element here, and it doesn't have enough space to just do its thing. There's like, you've got all these cut up vocals and stuff happening in the background, and yeah, I just think keep it simple. Simple's generally, I mean, like not most of the time, pretty much all the time, 99% of the time, the best tracks are simple. It doesn't mean that they're like, yeah, simple doesn't mean that you don't put in any work and you don't kind of, but it's just, what I mean by simple is like less elements, stronger elements, like meaningful elements that yeah, that don't kind of happen on top of each other. Everything is purposeful and has its place in the track. Due to the level of compression that's on the track, it's bringing everything up, it's making it feel more kind of crowded and full. But I think, yeah, there's probably just a few too many elements in the track.
You make me get up off my feet. I get this feeling when I'm with.
Well, I mean, it's pretty well done. The elements that you've got sound like they're well produced, and I think it's just a matter of like going, the vocal, I mean, it's my opinion, but it sounds to me like the vocal is the main point of the track, right? So everything that's there should be complementing the vocal and excuse me, enhancing the vocal, making it feel kind of more important, supporting it. And it feels like there's a lot of things in the track that are kind of fighting for attention, and yeah, that's my feedback on that one. Anyway, thanks everyone for sending stuff in. Yeah, we had a lot. Anyway, so good stuff, and we will catch you all next time, I guess. For anyone who's first time watching the stream, it's generally the end of the month or the start of the month. But I always post a week before on YouTube and Patreon when it's coming up. Alright, enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace.